My sister can barely afford rent, Victoria announced to the entire reunion table, her laugh cutting through the summer air. So sad really. Working all those hours for what? $23 an hour. She swirled her wine dramatically. Some of us just aren't meant for success. I continued eating my salad, offering nothing but a small nod. My phone buzzed. The caller ID read, Westbrook Academy Director's Office. Miss Chen, regarding your anonymous $85,000 annual tuition payments for your nieces, the family has requested we reveal donor information. Should we discontinue the arrangement? Victoria's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Growing up as the younger Chen daughter meant existing in Victoria's considerable shadow. She was born 3 years before me, and from my earliest memories, those 3 years might as well have been 30. Our parents, first-generation immigrants who built a successful dry cleaning chain across Oakland, had specific ideas about success. Victoria embodied every single one. He was taller, louder, more confident. She married David Whitmore at 24, a corporate attorney from a family my parents described as good stock. She produced 2 beautiful daughters, Madison and Sophia, who attended the most prestigious private school in the Bay Area. I was none of those things. My first clear memory of being compared came at age 7. Victoria 10 had just won the district spelling bee. Our parents threw a celebration dinner at our favorite Chinese restaurant, complete with extended family and a custom cake. Victoria will be somebody important, my grandmother declared, pinching my sister's cheek. She glanced at me, picking at my noodles. Maylin is quieter. Maybe she'll find a nice husband to take care of her. I was 7. I didn't even know what that meant yet. But I understood the tone. The second memory crystallized at age 12. I'd spent months working on a science fair project about water filtration systems, inspired by a documentary about clean water access. I won first place at the school level and advanced to regionals. My mother couldn't attend regionals. Victoria had a debate tournament the same weekend. Your sister's debate tournaments matter for college applications, my mother explained while packing Victoria's overnight bag. Science fair is just a hobby. You understand, Maylin? I placed 3rd at regionals. No one in my family ever asked about it. The pattern continued. At 15, I received early acceptance to a summer program at Stanford for high-achieving students. Victoria was preparing for her senior prom, and my parents decided the family couldn't split focus during such an important time for her. I didn't attend the Stanford program. Victoria's prom photos still hang in my parents' living room. There are no photos of me at 15 anywhere in that house. My father's approach was different but equally clear. He believed in investing in winners. When Victoria graduated business school, he gifted her $50,000 as startup capital for her career. When I graduated from State College with a computer science degree, full scholarship, but State College nonetheless, he handed me a $200 check and said, "Good. Now find a real job." I found a real job. Several, actually. What my family never knew, what I carefully kept hidden, was that my quiet nature came with a particular gift for pattern recognition. I saw systems where others saw chaos. I understood data flows like other people understood weather. At 22, while Victoria was celebrating her engagement, I was spending nights building a cybersecurity algorithm in my cramped apartment. By 23, I'd sold that algorithm to a mid-sized tech company for $340,000. I told no one in my family. They'd have found a way to diminish it, or worse, suddenly become very interested in my finances. That first sale led to consulting contracts. The consulting contracts led to a reputation in cybersecurity circles. By 25, I'd founded Chen Security Solutions, registered under my legal name, Maylin Chen, which my family never used because Emily was easier for Americans. By 27, the company was valued at $12 million. By 30, $94 million. By 32, I was receiving acquisition offers from 3 major tech corporations, all exceeding $300 million. I refused them all. I'd built something that mattered, systems protecting hospitals, schools, critical infrastructure. I wasn't selling my life's work to become someone else's footnote. I also made certain decisions along the way. When I learned that Victoria and David were struggling to afford Westbrook Academy for Madison and Sophia, tuition running $42,500 per child annually, I made a call. I established an anonymous scholarship fund through my company's charitable foundation. The fund specifically covered exceptional students demonstrating academic promise and family financial need. Madison and Sophia qualified. For 4 years I'd paid their tuition without anyone knowing. Not because I wanted credit. Not because I was trying to prove something. I did it because Madison and Sophia were innocent children who deserved opportunities, regardless of their mother's treatment of me. I did it because I remembered being 12 and missing regionals because my education wasn't the priority. I refused to let that pattern repeat for the next generation. My family believed I worked as a computer security consultant, making modest wages. I drove a 7-year-old Honda. I wore clothes from normal stores. I lived in a nice but unremarkable condo in San Francisco. I never corrected their assumptions. It was easier that way. But now, at 32, sitting at the Chen family reunion while my sister mocked my income in front of 40 relatives, I watched the school director's call change everything. The reunion had been my mother's idea. 80 relatives gathered at Golden Gate Park's picnic area, celebrating the vague concept of family togetherness that somehow always translated to Victoria Showcase. I'd almost skipped it. My company was closing a $45 million contract with a major healthcare network, and the due diligence alone required 14-hour days. But my mother had called using her specific guilt tone. Family should come first sometimes, Maylin. Even for you. So I came. I brought expensive wine that no one acknowledged and a potato salad that my aunt immediately moved to the back table. Victoria arrived like visiting royalty. David guided her through the crowd, one hand on her lower back, both of them gleaming in coordinated summer whites. Madison, 12, and Sophia, 10, trailed behind in matching Westbrook Academy tennis skirts. Mother! Victoria embraced my mom with the kind of theatrical warmth usually reserved for award ceremonies. The park looks beautiful. You've outdone yourself. I received no embrace. A brief nod. Maylin. You made it. Hi, Mom. The day proceeded as expected. Victoria held court at the main table, updating relatives on David's latest legal victories, Madison's acceptance into Westbrook's advanced placement track, and her own triumphs as a lifestyle consultant, which, as far as I could tell, meant having an Instagram account with 8,000 followers. I sat at the secondary table with my cousin Jenny and several distant relatives whose names I should have remembered but didn't. The comment came around 3 p.m. Victoria had been describing her family's upcoming trip to Italy, 2 weeks in Tuscany, luxury villa, private tours. A relative asked how she afforded such extravagance. David's firm is very generous, Victoria said. Then, for reasons I'll never fully understand, she turned toward my table. Not everyone is as fortunate, of course. She raised her voice slightly, ensuring the surrounding tables could hear. My sister can barely afford rent. So sad, really. Working all those hours for what? $23 an hour. The laugh that followed was sharp, performative. Some of us just aren't meant for success. It's genetics, I think. Some people are born with ambition and some... She trailed off, shrugging in my direction. I continued eating my salad. 40 years of managing my reactions had given me considerable practice. I felt the familiar flush of heat, the tightness in my chest, but none of it showed on my face. That's unfortunate, my Aunt Linda chimed in. Have you considered teaching her some skills, Victoria? You've done so well. I've tried, Victoria sighed dramatically. But you can't help someone who won't help themselves. My phone buzzed. The caller ID read, Westbrook Academy Director's Office. I excused myself quietly and stepped away from the table. Miss Chen, this is Harold Pemberton, Director of Westbrook Academy. I apologize for calling on a weekend, but we've received an unusual request from the Whitmore family regarding the Chen Educational Foundation scholarship. What request? They've asked us to identify the scholarship's anonymous donor. Apparently, Mrs. Whitmore believes knowing the donor would help her. I believe her words were, properly express gratitude at the appropriate social level. Director Pemberton's tone suggested his own opinion of this request. As founder of the foundation, the decision to reveal or discontinue the arrangement is entirely yours. I looked back at the picnic tables. Victoria was still performing, now demonstrating something on her phone to an admiring audience. Director Pemberton, I'll return your call in approximately 10 minutes. Please remain available. Of course, Ms. Chen. I hung up. I didn't return to my seat. Instead, I found a quiet bench near the water fountains and made a different call. Christine, it's Emily. I need you to prepare something for me. Christine Wong had been my executive assistant for 6 years. She'd watched me build Chen Security Solutions from a 3-person operation into a $340 million company employing 400 people. She knew my family situation. She'd witnessed phone calls with my mother that left me staring at walls for hours. She was also terrifyingly efficient. What do you need? She asked without preamble. The foundation scholarship for the Whitmore children. I need full documentation ready for disclosure. Donation records, original scholarship application, acceptance letters, every tuition payment for the past 4 years. Timeline: 20 minutes. Done. I ended the call and remained on the bench, watching a family of ducks navigate the pond. The afternoon sun was warm. Somewhere behind me, my sister was still performing. What Victoria didn't know, what no one in my family knew, was that her comfortable life rested on foundations she'd never examined. David's law firm, Whitmore and Associates, had 3 major clients providing 71% of their revenue. 2 of those clients were subsidiaries of companies that contracted Chen Security Solutions for their cybersecurity infrastructure. The contracts existed because my systems were excellent. But they'd been introduced by my company's business development team, which meant connections that traced back to me. I'd never influenced those connections to benefit David, but I could. More pressingly, Victoria's lifestyle consulting business, such as it was, had received $35,000 in promotional partnerships over the past 18 months. Those partnerships came through an influencer marketing platform called BrandBridge. BrandBridge was owned by Cascade Ventures. Cascade Ventures was 81% owned by a holding company called Pacific Growth Partners. Pacific Growth Partners was mine. I hadn't acquired BrandBridge to control my sister's income. The platform was genuinely profitable and fit my portfolio strategy. But the connection existed. Victoria's children attended school because of me. Her business received income because of me. Her husband's largest clients existed in an ecosystem I influenced. And she was currently telling 40 relatives that I couldn't afford rent. My phone buzzed again. Christine. Documentation ready. I'm also sending the foundation's complete giving history, since I assumed you'd want context. For the record, the Chen Educational Foundation has distributed $2.3 million in scholarships over the past 6 years. The Whitmore children represent $340,000 of that total. Thank you, Christine. Emily. Her tone shifted. Whatever's happening, you don't owe anyone an explanation. But if you want to explain, they should understand exactly what you've built. I smiled. I know. Also, your 3 p.m. with Senator Morrison's office was moved to Tuesday. And the North Star Healthcare contract closed. $47 million, all terms accepted. Good. Thank you. Go handle your family. I returned to the picnic area. The scene had evolved in my absence. My father had arrived late from his golf game and was now seated at Victoria's table, receiving updates on his favored daughter's life. My mother was photographing Madison and Sophia in their matching outfits. Victoria noticed my approach and smiled the smile she used when she sensed an opportunity. There she is. We were just talking about you, Mei Lin. Emily. I corrected automatically. I go by Emily Dao. Right. Your American name. She turned to the nearby relatives. She thinks it helps with job applications. I said nothing. I simply returned to my seat and resumed eating my salad. Anyway, Victoria continued, I was explaining to Dad how you might benefit from a career workshop I'm developing. Basic professional skills, presentation confidence, that sort of thing. I'm only charging $500 per session, but for family I could offer a discount. That's generous, I said. I just hate seeing you struggle. I appreciate the thought. My phone buzzed. Director Pemberton calling back. Excuse me, I said. I need to take this. But this time I didn't walk away. I remained at my seat, the table suddenly quiet as I answered. Director Pemberton. Miss Chen. I wanted to follow up on the Whitmore request. Have you made a decision regarding the scholarship disclosure? Victoria's head turned sharply at the mention of her family name. Yes, I said, my voice calm. Please discontinue the anonymous designation. You may inform Mrs. Whitmore that the Chen Educational Foundation Scholarship, all $85,000 annually, has been provided by me personally for the past 4 years. Director Pemberton paused. Understood. And should I mention that future payments are conditional on academic performance only? My niece's education will continue to be funded regardless of any family matters. They've done nothing wrong. Of course. Thank you, Ms. Chen. The Academy is grateful for your extraordinary generosity. I ended the call. Victoria's wine glass had frozen halfway to her lips. What did you just say? Victoria's voice had changed completely. The performance was gone. I took a phone call. Is something wrong? That was about Westbrook? About my daughter's scholarship? Yes. You're claiming that she laughed, but it was brittle now. That's impossible. You can barely afford rent. I said nothing. Tell me you're joking. Victoria stood up. The movement knocked her wine glass over. Red spread across the white tablecloth and she didn't seem to notice. Tell me you're joking right now. I'm not joking. My mother had moved closer, her face confused. What's happening? Victoria, why are you upset? She's claiming she paid for Madison and Sophia's school. The scholarship. She's saying she's been paying $85,000 a year. My mother laughed. That's ridiculous. Malin can't afford that. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Ms. Chen? This is Howard Marcus, president of Bay Area Community Foundation. I'm calling because we've received notification that you're adjusting the anonymous status of several major donations. I wanted to confirm, you're authorizing full disclosure of your $1.2 million contribution to our children's education initiative. I'd forgotten about that call. I'd set up the disclosure request days ago, planning to finally claim the tax benefits. The timing was coincidental. Or maybe not. The universe has peculiar symmetry sometimes. Yes, that's correct. Wonderful. And should I mention your cumulative giving of $4.7 million across our various programs? If you'd like. The Foundation is deeply grateful, Ms. Chen. Your support has transformed thousands of lives. I ended the call. My father had stood up now. The entire picnic area had gone quiet, 40 relatives frozen in various poses of confusion. What the hell is going on? My father demanded. Malin, what are these people talking about? My phone buzzed a third time. This time I recognized the number. Ms. Chen, this is Robert Torres from the San Francisco Business Journal. We're running the 40 Under 40 feature next month, and I wanted to confirm some details about Chen Security Solutions. Our research shows the company valuation at $340 million, with you holding 93% ownership. Is that accurate? It was accurate last quarter. Current internal valuation is closer to $380 million following the Northstar Healthcare contract. Extraordinary. And your personal net worth for our profile. I don't disclose personal finances publicly. You can list the company valuation. Of course. Thank you for your time, Ms. Chen. I ended the call. My mother's face had drained of color completely. She reached for a chair back to steady herself. $340 million? She whispered. That's not. You work in computer support. I own a cybersecurity company, Mom. I've owned it for 10 years. Victoria's hands were shaking. She was gripping the edge of the table like it was the only solid thing in her universe. No, she said. No, this is some kind of trick. You're trying to embarrass me. You hired those people to call. Victoria. My voice remained calm. Director Pemberton at Westbrook Academy has been the director for 12 years. You can call him back yourself. The Foundation scholarship documentation shows every payment $42,500 per child per year for 4 years. $340,000 total. But why wouldn't you say anything? Because Madison and Sophia deserved an education regardless of how you treated me. And because you never asked. My Aunt Linda, who had been so eager to pile on earlier, was now backing slowly away from the main table as if trying to physically distance herself from the conversation. David had gone pale. He was on his phone typing furiously. David. Victoria's voice cracked. David, tell me this is fake. Victoria. His voice was strange. The firm. Whitmore and Associates. I just looked up our major clients. Harper Manufacturing, Coastal Systems, Pacific Northwest Regional. What about them? They all use the same cybersecurity vendor. Chen Security Solutions. He looked at me. Your company. I nodded. Those contracts represent $8.2 million in annual revenue for your firm, I said. I didn't arrange them. Your clients chose my company based on merit. But the relationship exists. David sat down heavily. His phone slipped from his fingers and landed on the grass. My father stepped toward me. His face was working through emotions I'd never seen before: confusion, disbelief, something that might have been shame. You built a $340 million company, he said slowly. And you never told us. You never asked, Dad. You assumed. All of you assumed. But I could have helped, we could have invested. You gave Victoria $50,000 at graduation. You gave me $200. I kept my voice level. I didn't need your money, Dad. I never did. I just needed you to ask me about my life instead of assuming you already knew it. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. Victoria finally found her voice. The scholarship. You can't take it away. My daughters need that school. I'm not taking it away. I specifically told Director Pemberton that Madison and Sophia's education will continue regardless of family matters. They're innocent in this. Then why did you reveal it? Because you asked. You specifically requested that the school identify the anonymous donor. You wanted to know who was being generous to your family so you could, and I quote, properly express gratitude at the appropriate social level. Victoria flinched as her own words returned. So here I am. At your appropriate social level. My mother stepped forward, her face cycling through calculations I recognized from childhood, the rapid assessment of what this information meant for family dynamics, for her own position, for the narrative she'd constructed. Emily, she stumbled over my name as if seeing me for the first time. We should discuss this privately. Family matters should be family matters. You didn't seem to think so when Victoria was announcing my salary to 40 relatives. My mother's mouth opened and closed. The potato salad, I continued. The one I brought. Someone moved it to the back table. What does that have to do with anything? Nothing. It just felt relevant to mention. My phone buzzed. Christine again. Emily, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the situation has escalated. I'm receiving calls from multiple media outlets. Apparently word of the foundation disclosure spread to the Business Journal's social reporter. They're asking for comment on the Bay Area billionaire family rift story. Billionaire is inaccurate. I know. But it's trending. Do you want me to issue a statement? Say nothing. This is a private family matter. Understood. I ended the call. Victoria had started crying. Not elegant, performative tears, actual crying, mascara running, shoulders shaking. How could you do this to me? How could you humiliate me like this? I felt something shift inside me. Decades of patience. Decades of absorbing. It didn't break, I wouldn't let it break, but it bent toward clarity. Victoria, I said quietly, I have been funding your children's education anonymously for 4 years. I have watched you mock my career, my life, my choices at every family gathering. I have said nothing. I have asked for nothing. I have never once reminded you that your daughters go to school because of me. I stood up. Today you announced to 40 relatives that I couldn't afford rent. While wearing a dress you bought with money from a business platform that I own 81% of. While your husband collects fees from clients who use my security systems. While your children attend school on my foundation's scholarship. Victoria's crying intensified. I didn't humiliate you. I answered a phone call. You humiliated yourself. Escalating consequences. The next 4 days unfolded in ways I hadn't anticipated. The Business Journal story ran. It was mostly accurate, highlighting the Chen Educational Foundation's work, my company's growth, the general disconnect between public perception and private success. My PR team managed it well. But the story included details about Victoria's Instagram lifestyle consulting business. A junior reporter had done basic due diligence and discovered the Brandbridge connection. Within 48 hours, 3 of Victoria's brand partnerships had quietly terminated. Not because I'd intervened, I hadn't and wouldn't, but because brands don't like association with public embarrassment. David called me on day 3. His voice was strained. Emily, I need to ask. The firm's clients. The ones using your company. Are you going to what? Influence them. The contracts. No. I meant it. Those are business relationships. I don't mix business with family matters. Your clients chose my company because our security infrastructure is excellent. That hasn't changed. But you could. I could do many things, David. I'm choosing not to. There was a long pause. Why not? After everything Victoria said. Because your career isn't about Victoria. And because Madison and Sophia need a father with a stable income. I'm not going to hurt my nieces to punish my sister. Another pause. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just, maybe examine why you're relieved I'm not the person your wife assumed I was. On day 5 my mother called. The extended family won't stop talking, she said, her voice tight. Aunt Linda is telling everyone. Cousins are calling asking if it's true. Great Uncle Francis called from Taipei. That sounds exhausting. You could fix this. You could tell everyone it was exaggerated, that the reports were wrong. Mom, the reports were accurate. Actually, they underestimated. The company closed another major contract this week. But the family will think whatever they think. I'm not going to lie to protect Victoria's reputation. She had 47 chances to treat me like a person instead of a punchline. She chose differently each time. My mother's breath caught. We didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. Final consequences. 3 weeks later, I received an invitation to Madison's 12th birthday party. Victoria had sent it, the first direct communication since the reunion. The card included a handwritten note. Please come. The girls miss you. I think we need to talk. I attended. Victoria met me at the door of her home. The home I now knew was mortgaged to the limit. The home David was struggling to afford after 2 major clients had relocated to different law firms. Unrelated to me, though Victoria didn't believe that. Thank you for coming, she said. Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. I came for Madison. I know. She led me inside. The girls are in the backyard. I wanted to talk to you first. We sat in her living room. The furniture was beautiful but worn in places. I noticed she'd changed her perfume. Probably couldn't afford the old brand anymore. I've been thinking, Victoria began. About everything. About my whole life, really. I waited. I convinced myself that you were less than me. I needed to believe it because, I don't know. Because if you were successful, what did that make me? The older sister who peaked at 30 and never figured out what came next. That's not my problem to solve, Victoria. I know. She looked at her hands. I know. I'm not asking you to solve it. I'm trying to explain. Not excuse. Explain. Okay. I was cruel. For years. I was cruel, and Mom and Dad encouraged it because it was easier than examining what they wanted from both of us. And I let it happen because being the golden child felt good. It felt safe. And now I'm 35 and my business is failing, and my husband barely looks at me because he realizes our entire life was built on assumptions that turned out to be wrong. And my children go to school because of the sister I spent years humiliating. She started crying again. This time I didn't feel the cold satisfaction I might have expected. What do you want, Victoria? I don't know. She laughed through her tears. I don't know how to have a sister I actually respect. I never learned. I considered this. Then learn. Madison's birthday party was surprisingly lovely. The girls had grown since I'd last seen them properly, not in passing at family obligations but actually seen. Madison was sharp and curious, already talking about environmental science. Sophia was quieter but observant, watching her mother with an understanding that seemed too old for 10. They knew. Maybe not the details, but children sense shifts in family power. Aunt Emily, Madison said, pulling me aside near the end of the party, is it true you paid for our school? I considered lying. I decided against it. Yes. Why didn't you tell us? Because it wasn't about getting credit. It was about making sure you had opportunities. Madison processed this. Mom says we should be grateful. You should be whatever you feel. Gratitude isn't obligatory. I feel confused. And kinda sad. And also like I want to know more about your company because building something that big sounds really cool. I smiled. We can talk about that whenever you want. Okay. She hugged me quickly then ran back to her friends. I found Victoria in the kitchen washing dishes she could have left for later. Keeping busy. Avoiding. Madison asked about the scholarship, I said. Victoria's shoulders tensed. What did you tell her? The truth. She nodded slowly. Good. That's good. I leaned against the counter. I'm not going to pretend the last 30 years didn't happen. I'm not going to erase the memories of every dismissal, every comparison, every assumption that I was less than you. I know. But I'm also not going to spend the next 30 years punishing you for it. That would make me someone I don't want to be. Victoria turned from the sink. Her eyes were red. What do you want? From me? From any of this? I thought about the question seriously. What did I want? I want you to know me. Not the version you invented. Not the little sister who couldn't keep up. Me. The actual person I became while you weren't watching. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I. I pushed off from the counter. But we could figure it out. If you're willing to show up differently than you have been. I want to try. Then we'll try. Fully. With boundaries. What kind of boundaries? No comments about my career. No comparisons. No assumptions about what I can or can't afford. No performing sisterhood for family audiences. Real conversations or nothing. Victoria swallowed. That's a lot to change. It is. But it's what I need to be willing to have you in my life. She was quiet for a long moment. Okay. Okay. I moved toward the door. I need to go. I have a board meeting tomorrow morning. Emily. I turned. The $340,000. For the girls. Will you let me pay it back eventually? When I figure out how. I considered this. The money was nothing to me now, less than a rounding error. But I understood what she was asking. She was asking to not owe me forever. If you want to. But not to me. Pay it forward. Find other kids who need opportunities. Start there. Victoria nodded, tears falling again. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me. I left through the front door. My 7-year-old Honda was parked between Victoria's leased BMW and David's Mercedes. I'd probably upgrade the car eventually. Maybe next year. Or maybe not. Some things matter less than people assume. 2 months later, I received a text from an unknown number. Hi Aunt Emily. It's Madison. Mom gave me your number. I've been reading about cybersecurity and I have so many questions. Can we get lunch? Also Sophia wants to come because she says you're the interesting aunt now. Let us know when you're free. I smiled and typed my response. Saturday works. I know a place. Tell Sophia I agree about the interesting part. The response came immediately. Amazing. See you Saturday. I put down my phone and returned to the contract on my desk. The healthcare network deal had closed and 3 more opportunities were waiting. Outside my office window, San Francisco glittered with possibility. I'd spent 30 years being underestimated. I'd spent 10 years building an empire in silence. Now finally I was building something else. A family that knew who I actually was. It was, I decided, worth the wait.